Hey guys, HuShang here. If you're new to the channel, I'm a Grandmaster with all three races, and today we're going to be looking at a transition from the common Hellion Liberator opening in the Terran vs Zerg matchup. So this is an awesome transition, super standard, but super standard for a reason, because this build is kick-ass. And what we're going to be doing is starting with this Hellion Liberator pressure, which I already did a video on, so I'm not going to cover that part, but I will link it at the top right of this video if you want to check it out. And so you should get to this position at about 4 minutes or so. You've got your 6 Hellions, and the first thing you're going to do is throw down this third command center. Now just make sure, this is pretty subtle, but just make sure that your depots are covering 2 squares worth of space over the command center. If you just cover 1 square worth of space, then that's when lings are able to slip through. So you can put that down, maybe try to reduce the surface area over here as well. And then behind that, we're going to start the swaps. So the first swap you want to do is the, well, you can do any one first, but we're going to swap the factory over to a tech lab. And we're going to start a reactor on the starport. And then we're going to start this stim upgrade. So we're going to leave this reactor bare for a second, and we are getting a reactor on this starport. These reactors are both for new barracks, which we're going to move over in a second. And so this factory is going to be staying on this tech lab for tanks, and then we're going to move this reactored starport in a second again, and that's going to be for medevacs. So we're basically setting up for 3 racks, 1 factory, 1 starport. And in the meantime, you can of course be doing this harass. So this is something you're going to want to practice in maybe the custom section of the game and just get a feel for the build before you take it on ladder. Because there's no way you're going to be multitasking these Hellions and doing this. So practice it first. But okay, so we swapped the factory over to a tech lab. And we have this reactor going on the starport. We've got the stim on the way. Next thing we got to do is start up our barracks. So as you can see here, I started 1 on the old reactor, and I started 1 beside the starport. That's important because we don't want it to, fly it from way over here on the edge of our base and have it take like 20 seconds to land on this reactor, which we're going to be swapping. So throw that down. In the meantime, of course, this is probably when your attack is starting. So before you do the next step, if you did want to multitask, this is where you would, maybe poke in with your Hellions, try to get some drones, maybe set up your Liberator. You can shift queue it maybe if you want. But then as soon as you're finished with your few seconds of harass, you want to come back to your base and throw down real quick 2 E-bays, 2 engineering bays. So this is going to be critical for our push in a little bit. We're going to be hitting a 1-1 timing with stim and with combat, a few tanks, and some medevacs. So make sure you get these down on time. So it's about, what, 440? So somewhere 440, 450 should be super optimal for that. And then make sure that this tank starts right away. It's really, maybe not super common, but it's fairly common for Zergs to be going for some sort of attack. Maybe a big roach attack, or maybe some sort of Ling Bane all in. So you don't really know if they're doing that just yet. Maybe you're just getting a whiff like right now. So make sure you queue up your tank right away and shift it over here. Or rally it over here rather. And then swap your starport to a new reactor. We're not going to need these to begin right away. In fact, we're actually going to delay the medevacs quite a bit. So it's much more important to have these reactors for barracks. Okay. In the meantime, I've also started up a depot, by the way. But you can just continuously build those one at a time, so it shouldn't be too hard to fit those into your build. And then let's fly this 3rd racks over to the reactor. We're going to queue up a 2nd tank right away. Make sure there's no gaps. I'm wondering if I make a gap here. And let's queue up some Marines as well. It looks like I don't have exactly enough money for that, but I'm sure I'll start the tank as soon as there's 125 gas. And then 5 Marines on the way. I'm trying to sync these up, by the way, because if you don't sync these up, it's gonna be much harder to do this build and multitask. So you can probably do the build fine, just queuing up units randomly, but this makes it way easier to multitask. So it's a good idea for sure. Get your tank on time, he says, and gets it like 20 seconds late. Nice. Okay, next up after the second tank, we're going to be getting the concussive shells. And so this is going to be important to get right after stim as well, because we're going to be lining this attack up with 1-1 and stim. Now probably about here, if your Hellions, if you didn't sack them and go for some drones, you can bring these back. And you can just use these to help take your third a little bit quicker is an option. And if you do lose them, you got to be a little careful right now because you don't have too many Marines. So it's probably a good idea to put your tank, siege it up here before you move down. Otherwise, they can easily run like 20-30 lings that they spammed, surround your units, and yeah, pretty much lights out. So just be very careful around this area, but you do need to take your third quickly so we can start getting those, start getting that money. So put that tank up here if you need to. And then from here, we're going to start our medevacs, I believe. No, one more tank, and then we're going to start the medevacs, because this is a 3-tank push. So we'll grab that here, and then we will grab our medevacs, like I mentioned. And you can see up here in the production tab that, you know, these upgrades are going to line up nicely. So we're going to have 1-1 combat shield, 3 tanks, and 2 medevacs, and quite a few Marines as well. Now during this transition, it is pretty likely that they're going to counterattack you. So what you want to do is start setting up these depot walls. So right after you expand, you would think you would wall here, which would make a lot of sense. Wall off your natural, but actually you want to start walling over here instead. And we'll finish up this in a bit, but this area is a little more important because it's so far from where your army is. So cut them off here, or I mean, other maps are going to be a little different. Like if you're on this third base, you'll cut off this area, but you want to cut off some space here so it's not so far for your Marine tank to defend. And then let's see. So I think we're pretty much all set up. We're just waiting on this last tank, and then we're going to move out with our medevacs. Now you do have an option here. You can bring this, but it does make you a lot weaker to counterattacks. So if you want to do a lighter pressure, I think it's okay to just leave this tank here on the high ground, and then if they do some sort of mass sling counterattack, at least you have this tank covering your third and this area as well. So something to think about, but you can also bring this guy if you want to play a little more aggressive. I think that's also fine. It's just it might turn into a more chaotic game. So here we are moving out. Check our upgrades. We got about 14 seconds on this 1-1, so you want to be careful. Try not to take an engagement too early, but this is going to time out super nice against Zerg players who are a little bit greedy with something like their 1-1 upgrades. So if they have 1-1 upgrades right here, they definitely don't also have Bane speed. Or if they do have both of those, they're like super behind in drones, like really far behind in drones. Pretty much impossible to do that with a good economy. You kind of have to choose one or the other as Zerg. So if they have Bane speed, you're going to have the 1-1 advantage and the combat shield. So this is a super strong attack. They're not going to have good creep. They're not going to have these upgrades that they need. And so this is a great time for you to trade and put on some pressure. So wherever they take their fourth, you're going to go pressure to that. And if you have your Hellions from earlier, you can also turn those into the Hellbats, assuming your armory is on time. I mean, we could wait like 10 seconds in this case. And then, yeah, we gotta wait 10 seconds anyways. So wait 10 seconds, turn your Hellions into Hellbats, and then that's some additional firepower you have with this push. And then from here, we're gonna do another transition, but I'm gonna cut this video off here. I don't want these videos to get too long, but I will probably do that one tomorrow so you guys have some more detail. But yeah, so this is the 3 racks, 3 or 2 tank timing push, and it's just a really solid way to get into the middle and later stages of the game. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, as always, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you want to see next in the comments, and I will see you in the next one.